friends, I have some questions for you. Do you feel like you're running around putting out literal fires all day, figuratively speaking? Do you feel like you're busy but like your work is not having a high impact? Do you have long-term goals but you don't have the time or the energy to actually make forward progress on them? And do you have a hard time delegating and or saying no to things and keeping boundaries? Well, if you do, then this video is going to be for you, because we are going to be talking all about one of my top productivity hacks and methods that I have used before in my business and just in life in general, and that is the Eisenhower Matrix. And the Eisenhower Matrix was originally created, or the credit is given to Dwight Eisenhower, and it was also popularized by famous author Stephen Covey. And Eisenhower lived one of the most productive lives that you can ever imagine. During his time in office, let me see what he said. He launched programs that directly led to the development of the interstate in the United States, the launch of the internet, the exploration of space, and the peaceful use of alternative energy sources. He was also a 5-star general in the United States Army, served as the supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe, and was responsible for planning and executing invasions of North Africa, France, and Germany, while also golfing and doing oil painting. So he did all of these things. And how was he able to do all of that? By prioritizing what tasks needed to be done when, and he did it through the Eisenhower Matrix. And so that is what we are going to be talking about today, and what that can look like for you and your life specifically. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. For those who don't know me, my name is Rainey Barton. I'm an elementary music teacher and middle school musical theater teacher in Central Florida. I am also a teacherpreneur productivity mentor, so I help teacher sellers master their time and energy while scaling their business so that they can ditch the hustle and grind, break it with busy, and stop sacrificing their mental health. Sundays are productivity videos, Wednesdays are teacher seller videos, and the whole goal behind it all is to help you work less and make more. So if that is the sort of thing that you want to do, then click subscribe, watch all the videos, all the good stuff. This is where it's going to go. We're going to get back into the topic of today, which is the Eisenhower Matrix. So, like I said, it was coined by Eisenhower and used a lot by Stephen Covey, but it basically it's a box, and it basically works like this. You're going to take your to-do list and separate it into 4 different types. Urgent and important, those are tasks that you have to do immediately. They are due first. Important but not urgent, these are tasks that you can schedule to do at a later time. Urgent but not important, so these are tasks that you could delegate to somebody else. And not urgent and not important means tasks that you can basically get rid of, because there are tasks that are probably on your to-do list that you don't ever need to be doing. Now, the great thing about the Matrix is that it can be used for the most basic things, like how should I spend my time each week, and for smaller daily plans, what should I spend my time on today? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to plop up an Eisenhower Matrix on the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about, and then we'll just go through it piece by piece. As you can see, this is the Eisenhower Matrix and what it looks like. And so over here is our important and urgent do it section, like we just talked about. We have important but not urgent for scheduling. Not important but urgent, delegate it, and not important and not urgent, eliminate it. So we're just going to go through each one of these piece by piece and talk about a couple of what I mean and examples for each one. Before we break down anything, I want to talk about how do you decide if something's urgent versus important? How do you decide these things? Well, one, it's all in perspective. It's going to change based off of what you think is important. Because, for example, maybe I think YouTube is really important, but YouTube doesn't mean anything to you. Or maybe it's really important that you check your email every single day, and for me, I only check it once a week, which that's not true. But it just depends. It's all relative. But also we have to break down what it means by urgent versus important. So urgent is things that you feel like you need to react to, like emails, phone calls, texts, news stories. Whereas important tasks are things that contribute to our long-term mission and your values and your goals. So I think of urgent as it requires immediate action. These are visible issues that are popping up and they demand our attention now. And typically, urgent things, if we don't do it, they come with clear consequences for not completing them. They're kind of unavoidable, but spending too much time on urgent things can produce a great deal of stress and could result in burnout a lot quicker. Whereas important issues, on the other hand, are things that we said are contributing to your long-term goals and values. So these require planning. They require thoughtful action. When you're focusing on important matters, you're managing your time, your energy, and your attention rather than mindlessly using, your time and energy. So what is important, like I said, is subjective, and it depends on what your goals are and what your values are for this time. Nobody else can define what is important for you except for yourself. So that's just something to think about when you're starting to categorize your tasks. What does it mean to be urgent? What does it mean to be important? What does that look like to you? This was fun, there also was a recent study in the Journal of Consumer Research, and it was set out to examine how people decide what they want to work on when they're faced with tasks of mixed urgency and importance. And across 5 different experiments, they observed that our attention is drawn to time-sensitive tasks over tasks that are less urgent, even when the less urgent tasks offer greater rewards. It's called the mere urgency effect. It kind of explains why we're so bad at task and time management. We're much more likely to prioritize tasks that have a deadline over tasks without one, regardless if the tasks that don't have a deadline have a better payoff. And the effect is even more prominent in people that describe themselves as busy. They also found that self-described busy people were more likely to select urgent tasks with lower payouts because they were already fixated on task duration and how many tasks they're getting done. So if you're already feeling a time crunch, you're going to likely want to continue to prioritize tasks that help keep you focused and on the clock. But there's good news. You can surpass the mere urgency effect. When the participants were asked to consider the consequences of their choices at that time, they were significantly more likely to choose the important task over the urgent one. Because the findings suggest that if you keep the long-term importance of non-urgent tasks in your mindset, you can overcome the pull towards always doing urgent tasks and focus on what really matters and do those important tasks with a longer-term payoff. So in other words, the fastest way to get something done is to eliminate that task entirely. There's no faster way to do something than not doing it at all. So you really have to make hard decisions and delete tasks that do not lead you towards your mission, your values, and your goals. Which is why I really like using the Eisenhower Matrix, because it pushes me to really question whether an action is actually necessary, which means I'm more likely to move tasks into that delete section rather than mindlessly repeating them. And so we're going to be talking now all about how to decide what tasks go where and just how to use this thing to the best of our abilities. So let's start with urgent. These are the tasks you need to focus on first. So remember, like we said, urgent needs to be done right away, and important is deemed on what you view as important. Some examples of things that could be urgent is recording a podcast episode for release tomorrow. Like if you have a podcast that you have to release every week, you kind of need to record the podcast episode. Or finish the last 2 emails in your launch sequence for next week's launch. It's happening next week. It probably needs to be done now so that you don't have to freak out about it when it's actually launch time. So those are things that can't be put off until like tomorrow or a week from now. They need to be done right now. Then we have important but not urgent, and those are things that you can schedule for later. Things like exercising. Yeah, it is important, but if you miss it for one day, it's not going to be the end of the world. That could be strategic planning. If you're wanting to plan for the quarter and you still have a month until the new quarter is happening, yeah, you can schedule that at some point to get it done. Or engaging with your audience and networking. If you miss a day or you don't do it every single day, then, like I said, it's again not the end of the world, and it's something that you can schedule into your schedule into your calendar so that you actually are making sure that you're doing it each and every day. Then we have not important and urgent. They're still urgent. They need to be done. They don't necessarily have to be done by you. These are tasks you can assign to somebody else. Now, if you don't have a team, then you're not really going to delegate very much, and so that box is kind of irrelevant to you, as it's kind of irrelevant to me unless it has to do with bookkeeping, because I do have an accountant for that. So take this box with a grain of salt, depending where you are at in your business. Things that you could be delegating is scheduling out podcast interviews if you have somebody that could schedule them for you, responding to customer support emails if you have someone that does customer support for your business, editing podcast episodes if you want to outsource that, which I want to do that eventually for YouTube, or uploading a blog post. Maybe you have somebody else that could do it. Like I've even paid my sisters to do stuff before for me. So delegation, do it where you need to. And this would also be things like updating your product covers. Like if you decided to go with a new look and you have a lot of products to update like I do, then you could hire someone to do that. Or you could be like me and just update them as the season comes up. So I just updated all of my Thanksgiving resources, and it didn't take that long because I don't have that many. So that's just something to think about. And then not important and not urgent. They're things you don't need to do. Simplify them. Now, you could put things in that box that maybe you still want to do eventually, but you don't have to. The world will survive if you don't do it. Now, do things eliminate it. Eating junk food. Checking your email 5 times a day. You don't need to check it 5 times a day. Check it once in the morning, once at night. Or binging Netflix daily. Obviously, you don't need to do that. You could have a show that you want to watch, but don't just watch Netflix all the time. So those are great examples of things that you should eliminate off of your schedule. So I know that it can be hard to eliminate time-wasting activities if you're not really sure what you're working towards. So there are two questions that can really help clarify this when you're using the matrix. And the two questions are, what are you working towards? And what are the core values that are driving everything for you right now? Because if you're able to answer those questions, then you're able to categorize your tasks better. And so what you could do is go into your to-do list, and you could even do it as a number system. And I would actually do it this way: 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? Is because 1 is most important. This is not important, but it's still urgent. So it beats important but not urgent because it's more urgent than this. So next would be the tasks that you need to delegate. That would be 2s. Then you would schedule things. That's 3. And then 4 would be eliminated. And so anything that needs to be done immediately, I would schedule and do this. Or I would do this first. However, I would take the time to maybe schedule and delegate things before you start doing the do it things, because then you don't have to worry about these tasks and they're already scheduled and they're already delegated. So I would work on these first and then actually start doing your do it tasks. And then you should have eliminate tasks. Now, if you are not eliminating any tasks and you're like, everything is really important, I really need you to reconsider why we're using this matrix. But this is how the Eisenhower Matrix works. I hope that you are able to incorporate this into your business and see how this could work for you. That's the Eisenhower Matrix for you. Now, there are so many productivity strategies that you could use. You could use the to-do list, like I've taught before, where you drag from left to right. You could use the Eisenhower Matrix, the Pomodoro method. Well, that's actually a time management system. But there's lots of different strategies that you could use. And maybe you're like, do you use all of these? For example, Eisenhower Matrix, I use, but I don't use the box per se. I just do the categorization like I did at the end, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that I know what tasks need to go in, but I am more focused on the chronotypes one that I've taught before in my course, where I focus on what tasks need to go at what time of day, like what tasks need to go in my creative peak, my communicative peak, and what's my other peak? My deep focus peak, which I will make a specific video on just all that for you guys super soon, because I've had questions about it. But you don't have to use every single method that I share on this channel. I am just providing you with a wealth of productivity knowledge so that you are able to walk away going, oh, I tried this and this did not work for me, but I tried this and this was a game changer. So if you get anything from this video, maybe just try the matrix. See how it works for you. Maybe you just number things. Maybe you actually draw the box in your journal or your goal planner or whatever it is. Just give it a try. You'll never know if it works for you until you try it. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. Hope this video was helpful for you, and on Wednesday we will be doing some sort of teacher seller video, and I should remember what we're doing, but alas, I don't. So it'll be a surprise for you. I feel like I always say that, and I need to actually start writing down like what we're doing so that like we can do this, because it's all Primary does it, and I love hearing what's coming up on her videos. Okay, but I will see you guys in the next video. So that's it. Bye guys.